Okay. I would like to comment about an upcoming lawsuit. Now, many of you may remember a while back there was a lawsuit filed by the Liability campaign against a couple of people, including Lucky Gunner primarily, and they were in favor of a few Colorado movie theater victims. And the premise was that it's illegal to sell body armor to criminals or mentally ill or whatever the hell, which is false. It's illegal to sell body armor to convicted felons, which Jim Holmes was not at that time. And to Lucky Gunner, because Lucky Gunner should have known that Jim Holmes was crazy. How? He's ordering online from a phone, having it mailed. He doesn't, Now, if Jim Holmes had been convicted of a felony already, then the body armor company would have been in trouble. Civilly, at least. If Jim Holmes went on to Lucky Gunner's website and said, "Hey, thanks, I got my ammo now and I can go clear in the movie theater," and Lucky Gunner did not report that to the police, because if you are a merchant and one of your customers tells you they're going to commit a crime, especially if that crime involves your product, you are required by law to report that. Just so we're on the same page there. Also, if a guy leaves your bar drunk and gets in his car. Okay. Also, if a guy buys a knife in your store and walks in and says, "I'm going to kill my wife," you have to report that stuff. Now, the lawsuit was thrown out as frivolous, and the Brady campaign had backed out of the lawsuit, and they were not responsible at all, and the judge made the plaintiffs pay all court fees and the defendant's fees, which is over $100,000, and they donated to the NRA anyway. Now, I had a friendly disagreement with Tim from Military Arms Channel. I said that they should not be making the families pay because the families are distraught and they're not in the right minds, and the Brady campaign obviously took advantage of them. And I said the Brady campaign should pay. And Tim politely said to me, "Vinny, I think that they should pay because they filed a frivolous lawsuit and they cost a lot of money." Okay, we have a disagreement. Now, there is a lawsuit being filed now against Bushmaster in favor of 9 Sandy Hook families because Bushmaster made a rifle that was appealing to psychopaths. They should have known better. Okay. Well, okay. Now, if I have a bar, if I have a liquor store, and I have surveillance and a license, and a guy comes in and buys 12 beers, 2 6-packs, whatever, and he's sober, surveillance shows he's sober, my employees see that he's sober, he has his ID, he goes home. He drinks the alcohol, all 12 bottles, gets behind the wheel, kills somebody. The victim's family sues me and says, "My employee should have known that he was going to drink and drive." How? If we're not checking ID, if he's visibly drunk already, if we don't have a license, understandable. Or the auto dealership should have known better, or the auto manufacturer should have known better. There are several merchant protection acts, commerce protection acts, that protect all merchants in the event their product is misused. Now, if I buy a gun, take it out of the box, and it blows up in my hand, I can sue. If I buy a gun, get drunk and dance, and it goes off, I can't sue. Now, they said the gun is appealing to criminals. Okay. Well, let's look at this for a minute. This is my Tactical Defense Institute K-Bar that I bought for my friends at Blade HQ and had mailed to my house without a background check. Some knives are tools, this knife is not. This knife is a killing knife. Okay? They tell you to carry this opposite your gun, and if someone tries to grab your gun, stab them in the throat with it. Okay? I usually wear that if I don't have a gun for whatever reason somewhere. And that is the knife of last resort. If you believe you're going to die or be kidnapped or be raped, you take that knife out, and I actually pricked my finger with it, it's pretty sharp a second ago, it's okay, not bleeding yet. But you take that knife, jam in the throat, jam in the face, jam in the chest, okay? There are defensive knife classes, which I should take, where they tell you, this is what the human body looks like, this is the torso made out of some kind of gelatin to replicate human flesh, stab here, stab here, stab there, stab there, there, okay? And they tell you every place in the body to stab. When you do a defensive gun class, they teach you, shoot at the chest, shoot at the chest, shoot at the head, shoot at the heart, shoot at the lungs, shoot at the stomach, shoot at the throat, shoot at the fire. They tell you where to kill people. And they base this study around, as a last resort, if you must, use these methods to kill people. And for the legal standpoint, you have to be 100% innocent. You have to be striking with the knowledge that you are going to die if you don't defend yourself, and it has to be a last resort. But they tell you how to kill people. And what if you take that knowledge and turn it around? You ever see Heat? Val Kilmer goes to Arizona with a fake driver's license, buys an explosive, and uses it to blow a door off of an armored car. He was in the guise of a construction guy doing a demolition project. And the explosive was not traced because you can buy it with a driver's license in 5 states. Okay? Well, what if a guy were to buy a demolition and he had followed the law, maybe he had a fake license, but he followed the law, and he used that demolition to blow up a bank vault? Could the bank sue the demolition company? Okay? Now, let's get into my guns. And yes, they're hot, so we need to be careful with them. Glock 23. That gun is a law enforcement gun. They tell you that that gun can be used to kill people. The companies advertise my guns as defense, home defense, carry, duty, blah, 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 war. You use these guns to kill people. They advertise it as that. This is a home defense gun. This is a carry conceal gun. This is a duty gun. This is a hunting gun. This is a target gun. This is a competitive. They advertise it as an instrument of combat. This is my Smith & Wesson gun. 45 ACP, 45 long Colt, 410 2.5 inch. They tell you this is for the truck, this is for the nightstand, this is for close quarter combat. When someone is going to kill you or kidnap you, this is the gun you use to shoot them at close range and do heavy damage to them. Okay? Many years ago, the U.S. military had revolvers. I think they were 38 short, not 38 special. And the Marine Corps in particular had a problem where they were fighting insurgents that were on drugs. And at close range, the Marines would shoot the insurgents and the bullet would not stop them. So the military said as a whole, we want several companies to submit new semi-automatics, because revolvers are obsolete, for our approval. We want to buy a new handgun. And we want a handgun to kill people with. We're going to use it to kill people. We want it to be semi-automatic. We want it to load fast. We want heavy bullets. We want people to die. And John Moses Browning, who was under contract with Colt at the time, made the 1911. And for 105 years almost, the military has used that to kill people. So as law enforcement, so as private citizens, this is a combat gun. This is a gun for killing people. Okay, that's what they advertise it as. That's what they want you to do with it. Obviously, legal standpoint, defense, blah, 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 justifiable homicide, yes. Even though most of the military is with Beretta, Glock 19 is new for SEALs now. Congratulations, SEALs. SIG, a couple other things. Recon, Delta, and Green Beret still use some type of 1911, and they use it to kill people. And there's no bones about it. That's what it's for. It's a defensive gun. And yes, any of these items I've shown you can be used by the bad guy against the good guy in a horrible crime. Now, look at the 9mm. When Georg Luger had this puny piece of shit gun No one wanted it because the caliber was too small. So he went in and did a quick fix on one of his machines. Thank you, clock. To make the diameter of the bullet 2 millimeters larger. Luger had that 9mm bullet in the Luger pistol in World War I, and then the Germans adopted the Walther P39 in World War II. And to this day, when you buy a box of 9mm, the box says 9mm Parabellum. What does Parabellum mean? It is a German phrase. It means for war. This is a 9mm bullet for war. This bullet is intended to kill people in war. And it's the standard NATO round for Beretta this and a SIG that, Browning that. It is a standard NATO round. 9mm bullet for killing people in war. So what if someone buys a box of 9mm and kills an innocent person? Could they sue the 9mm manufacturer because the guy spoke German and the box said for war in his native language? I mean, now let's talk about the AR rifle if it didn't exist, or if it was banned, or if the companies were smart enough not to make because it's a weapon, whatever. There are several rifles that we're going to look at rifles that were available in 2012 and don't look evil and are roughly less than an AR, roughly. M1 carbine. The models you're used to looking at have the adjustable sight and the bayonet lug, but M1 carbine. There were more of them used in World War II than M1 Garands. The BAR was a machine gun with 20 rounds in the mag. This was a rifle with 15 rounds in the mag. Up until 1944, this rifle was the highest capacity rifle on the battlefield. After World War II, French Foreign Legion bought surplus from the US to fight the Indochina War. In Korea, the US made a fully automatic version called the M2 and took that to Korea. And in Vietnam, a couple of guys had M1s and M2s, but not many, and it was phased out for the M14 and the M16. But it had very, very, very limited service in Vietnam. It's a weapon for war. There's a very famous picture of an Israeli teacher on a field trip with one. There are pictures of female Israeli tour guides with M1 carbines that they bought from wherever they bought them. It's a weapon for war. Nothing Fancy made a video, I'll put it below, and Suits made a video, I'll put it below on alternatives for the AR rifle. The Keltec SAU, I think, the Keltec rifle. Some guys think it's a piece of dog shit. Nothing Fancy Son Tactical Doodle thinks it's the most underrated rifle in the world. Whatever. It's a fairly affordable rifle that feeds the 5.56 ammo in the universal magazine. 5 rounds to 100 rounds. And the buttstock has a compartment to hold 2 10-round magazines. Okay? Nothing Fancy's favorite rifle in the world is the Mini. He has proven that he can use the Mini as effectively as an AK or an AR. The Mini is 5.56, 7.62 by 39, and now if you're in a blackout. 5 rounds to 100 rounds. It's a scaled down version of the military's M14. That's why they call it the Mini. Okay. The AK. There is an AK rifle with a receiver, and the rifle itself is plain. It's been out for several years. No buttstock, none of that stuff. Just a rifle. And it has a 10-round mag. But it will feed any AK mag. Totally plain, no pistol grip, none of that stuff. Eric from Iraq veteran, his favorite AR alternative. The SKS rifle. The SKS rifle has a 10-round stripper clip, which is top fed in here, and there's a metal box on the bottom, which you could call a magazine, I guess, and that houses it. Now, 10 rounds, okay? You have an AK mag. It's not heavy. Load, it's heavy. Buy 19 more. Load them. They're heavy, okay? 20 fully loaded AK mags versus 60 10-round stripper clips, okay? The SKS is the ultimate badass rifle for the shit is the fan, because the clips are so light and you can carry so much more ammunition for the weight. Or you can do, Eric had Tim over his house one time. They were looking at milsurp stuff, and Tim mentioned a special SKS rifle that comes from the factory ready for the AK mag. And then Eric said, look behind you. Or there's one behind you. And then Tim got his own. So you can buy the SKS rifle with the 30 round mag in it. Or if you can't find that, you can buy the standard SKS rifle, unscrew the 10 round box thing on the bottom, and Tapco has a 30 round magazine with a special lip that you screw into the bottom of it, and it will allow you to feed a 30 round mag in your standard SKS rifle. Let's go into the subcategory, literally. Kel-Tec has a sub 2000, SIG, Smith, but primarily Glock. Now, Glock is what? 10 rounds to 100 rounds. Now, 9mm is a third the power of a 45, 45 is a third the power of the 5.56, but when you're killing 5-year-olds at point blank range, a 9mm might as well be a rocket launcher. Okay, so the problem is, even if the AR didn't exist, or was banned from the market, or if Bushmaster was smart enough not to make it, when Adam Lanza broke open his mother's safe, there would have been any number of rifles in there instead of the AR, and I just listed some of the most popular that might have been there. So, now, I think that, Jesse Ventura has proven that you can sue people after they're dead. Now, I think that the people, assuming there's a person that can be named, they gotta talk to a lawyer about this, because I'm not a lawyer. They might have a good case against the Lanza family. Even though she's dead too, they might have a good case against them for negligence. Because many years ago, 50 years ago, any idiot could put you in a mental institution. It was very easy. And mental institutions were like medieval dungeons. In the 1970s, Geraldo Rivera made a documentary, yes, him. And there was a book that was made into a movie called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. And it exposed the horrors of the mental institutions. And the mental institutions should have been revamped and carefully investigated. But instead, the mental institutions threw everyone out. Okay? And I've taken psychology classes, and the professors have told me 75 to 80% of the guys that are bonkers are walking among us now. Literally. You have to be damn near ready to kill someone in order to go to a nut house today. Well, Mrs. Lanza was trying as hard as she could to get her son put in a mental institution because he was crazy. Okay, if your son is crazy, why the fuck are you buying guns, keeping them in the house, and allowing him to have access to them? I'm all in favor of parents teaching kids gun safety, but if your child is a fucking lunatic and you are afraid of him, my question is, what in the fuck are you doing giving him a fucking gun? And bringing him to the range and teaching what the trigger is and what the barrel is and what the bullet is. What the fuck is your malfunction? So they would have had a major case against Mrs. Land if she survived in civil court, and they might be able to get the family in court. They might. They got to look at the law. You can sue the family. Remember, Jesse Ventura sued Chris Kyle, and then Chris Kyle died during the lawsuit. But can you jumpstart the lawsuit against the family after the primary person responsible is dead? Good question. Also, she would have been charged in several criminal courts. State criminal court, federal criminal court. Why? What is a straw purchase? A straw purchase means that you bought a gun, and if people want me to if people want to buy a gun, I'll take them to my FFL, I'll pick the gun out. But They're doing the paperwork. They're doing the background. I'm not touching it. If you buy a gun and fill out all the paperwork for it, and you give that gun to someone that you know is not supposed to have it, that is a straw purchase. Mrs. Lanza went to the FFLs, bought guns, put them in her name, brought them to the house, and gave them to her son. So by definition, you would have a very good case for straw purchasing right there. Example, in Colorado, Harris and Klebold had a couple of older friends that went to gun shows and bought used guns from private sellers, which is why Colorado no longer has the gun show loophole. And the people were convicted because Harris was 18, he could only own a long gun. Klebold was 17, he couldn't own any gun. And in their special circumstance, they were on probation for a felony that was pled down to a misdemeanor, so they were banned from owning guns. So your attempts to get your son into a mental institution is clear evidence, to me at least, probably to a jury, that you know your son is not supposed to have a gun. Yet you are going out and buying guns for your son and giving them to him. So I think the lawsuit is misguided. Now, where would the lawsuit go? Good question. But like I said, if the case against Lucky Gunner was thrown out, this would be thrown out also. But then again, you have 4 Supreme Court justices that are sitting to this day that don't think you have a right to own a gun. There are 2 living, retired justices that voted twice and wrote in documents that you don't have a right to own a gun. So if there are Supreme Court justices walking around that say you don't have a right to own a gun, you never know what any judge is going to say at any given time. So it's very interesting to see where the case is going to go. But, I mean, it is scary. It is scary that someone will be so reckless they have a mental patient living in their house and gives them a gun. That is scary. Okay? This guy was a fucking nut job to nth degree. Okay? He was researching all school shootings, not for a project. He was researching suicide tactics, not because he wanted to go behind enemy lines. Okay? This guy was a fucking psycho. Okay? So let's see what happens, but it's a pretty scary scenario. Okay, I think we're done here. Thank you.